don't take the time to know who we are, to understand who we were created to be, we will continue chasing other people's versions of who we think we should be. We will continue looking at other people thinking that this is who we should be. And if you look at most people who have been successful and been performing, they crash because it's not sustainable. The heart can't even take it. You're constantly doing things that are outside of yourself.
All of those things that I'm telling myself, they're illusions. They're not my truth.
We're living a life that we've been conditioned to believe is supposed to be a certain way. A lot of us are living inherited or borrowed identities. We never chose this. And that's why it keeps us in this perpetual state of trying to become this person that is not there. And as human beings, we were not created to perform. We were created to be in the moment, be present.
The marketing techniques that you see are really just focused on actions. If you need to lose weight, here's the things that you need to do. But now you're stuck in a linear process of, I need to do this, I need to do that. You're not in embodiment, which means you'll never achieve the thing that you're trying to seek when you're in this process of, I don't have it, I need to achieve this. I need to buy the right product so I feel like my skin's looking amazing.
If anybody is listening to this, what I can say for them to take away, it's the simplest thing. It's not the biggest thing, but people don't want to hear it.
Welcome to the Mind, Body, Spirit podcast. I'm with Isabel Draughon. If I'm pronouncing that correct, we
Yes,
really
you are.
appreciate having you on as a guest. You're empowering so many women out there and really transforming the lives of many. If you want to just tell just a little bit about yourself and
Sure.
what started on your journey. I know you were born in Africa and what that was like for you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being here. And yes, you pronounced it correctly. It's interesting. People always say Draughon. Where they find the T from, I don't know. But I'm so used to it, I don't even correct people anymore. I'm like, that's fine. But thank you so much, Tim, for having me on your show. I'm excited to be here. I'll tell you a little bit about me and who I am. I always tell people I've been an entrepreneur for 2 decades. I own a business. I'm a founder of a business called Loud Whisper. And I actually call it more of a healing space than a business. And this is where I empower high achieving and purpose-driven women who are doing their CEO, they're leading teams, they're doing so well in their lives, but somewhere along the way, they lost connection with themselves, right? So they've mastered the art of creating goals and getting their achievements. But with that, it's interesting. I'm going to say this really quick. I was thinking about this the other day. And I was thinking to myself, I said, it's interesting how life works. Years ago, women would stay at home, but they would still lose themselves in the process. And then now the world is telling us, you can go out and break glass ceilings, and we're definitely losing ourselves in the process. So I was thinking to myself, like, something is not right here. So anyway, I do help women amplify their voices. Loud Whisper, I always say that is a woman screaming for help and nobody hears them because it comes out as a whisper. And then with my husband, we own a construction business where we do outdoor living spaces. We've been doing that for 2 decades. So with that, I do business development. As far as that is concerned, we do outdoor kitchens, the pergolas, and this is what I tell people. It's interesting that my life is all about transformation. I help people transform their lives personally, and I help people transform their homes. It doesn't get better than that.
It certainly is a beautiful thing, and
Yeah.
it brought up a little bit when you mentioned the role that women used to have and the role that they're moving into, and it's almost just coming full circle on experience itself, in that when we avoid certain aspects of our experience or life itself, they tend to show up on maybe the shadow side where we try to explore that opposite side, and we're like, man, it would be nice to get our voice out, and it would be nice to perform and like show up and have all these goals and create, kind of shatter those glass ceilings and the expectations that are placed on us. But then we run into a lot of the issues of performing, of overdoing, of overgiving. So could you take us a little bit through that? Like what are the expectations that are placed upon us? And this could be from the perspective of women or men. If you want to focus on women for this podcast, it is Women's History Month. So we'll dedicate.
I'll talk about both, right? I
Yeah,
talk about both because it's humanity. At the end of the day, it's humanity.
absolutely.
I love your question. Thank you so much for circling back to that. And the reason why I'll focus on both, I think this is happening right now. We live in a world that I call the hustle culture, and I think a lot of us can see that. And through that process, is a lot of us, we're receiving our validation from what we're producing. The world is saying, if you're not producing this, if you're not performing at this capacity, if you're not showing up this way, you, to me, I feel like someone's humanity is not validated. And I say this to say, even when they talk about suicide and stuff like that with young people, I honestly believe it's for the simple fact that being a human being is not enough anymore. It's
Yeah.
not enough anymore. It's always, what are you doing? What have you produced? What are your goals? It's everything that has to be done outside of ourselves that's validating our humanity. And that's where our anxiety, depression, and all these things is coming from because we've become human doers and not human beings. Nobody understands how to be anymore. Nobody knows what it feels like to be a human being. And if you try, you will get words like you're lazy, you're weak, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you going for this? So we're all in this perpetual state of chasing these lies that are, number one, truly not authentic. Because if you and I both know, most of the people who are millionaires or who have made money or who are successful, and success looks different for everyone else, will tell you, after I get the money, I want more of it. This is not fulfilling, right? People will say that we're in a state of confusion. We're in a state where our own human basic right, the feeling of waking up in the morning and saying, I am enough, society deems that you're not enough anymore. Hence the social media. Hence people, I always say that we spend so much time editing ourselves because we don't know who God created us to be in the first place. So we're running further from humanity into this space that is not sustainable, in a space where people are performing, and that's the worst thing. We're just performing to become all these people that we're not. And through that process, we're neglecting and we're losing the best parts of ourselves. We're not even connecting to our own gifts. Every human being was born with a gift. We don't even take the time to connect to our gift, to know who I am. What is my identity? Why am I here? What is my purpose? And that's because we live in a space right now where your being without production equals not a being. That's how I see the world views it.
It's pretty interesting because it's look at how we see a baby, and it's just this bundle of joy. It's
Yeah.
purity. It's just pure authentic expression. um, Everything a baby does, we laugh at, or we're in awe of. So I mean, what changes between the adult who doesn't have the job and the baby that they were? And it seems to be societal conditioning, expectations, and all of these roles. So it seems like most of this, they're concepts within our own mind of what we think is right and what we think is wrong and what success means, even though all of this is just subjective. So, how can people go about shifting from a state of doing to being, where just being your, human self, you are a gift. You are amazing.
Yeah,
Each
for
and every
sure.
one of you have gifts that you could show to the world, and it's really just starting by releasing these aspects of ourselves. So, could you take us through like the shift from doing to being, and really showing up as that authentic version of ourselves?
Yeah, I can absolutely. When I talk about topics like this, it boils down to belief. What do you believe about yourself? Yeah, what are you convicted about yourself? Because we are who we believe we are. We live our life according to our beliefs. It boils down to belief. So, as much as we're learning so much in from the world, there is so much of our own worlds that we need to unlearn. So when you're talking about the shift, when you're talking about when it starts as a little kid, a lot of us are living either a trauma experienced life that we had growing up, or we're living a life that we've been conditioned to believe is supposed to be a certain way. I talk about inherited or borrowed identity. A lot of us are living inherited or borrowed identities. We never chose this. And that's why it keeps us in this perpetual state of trying to become this person that is not there. It honestly starts within. It starts with yourself. It's about you looking in the mirror and saying, good, bad, or indifferent. Of course, it always starts with self-awareness. Transformation cannot start until you become aware. And self-awareness doesn't mean the problem is solved. Self-awareness means, wow, I'm aware. Now, what action do I need to take? It's the integration. To move from being a human doer to a human being, you have to tap in. You got to go in to yourself. Discover, who am I? Who are you to the core? And what you believe about yourself, is it true or is it inherited in what you believe about yourself? Is this a choice in identity? I believe that the most important knowledge any human being can obtain in life is knowledge of self. You got to know who you are to the core of your being. Once you start understanding yourself, you authentically start becoming yourself, because then you know your needs, your wants, what you value, your boundaries, what gives you joy, what ticks you, or even your non-negotiables. But we have suppressed ourselves for so long. We have lived our lives based on everybody else's opinions and expectations who we should be. It is hard for people to even try to shift from that being to the doing, because every time you look around, it's, what are you becoming? Who is this? Who is that? So we're constantly on this performance. And as human beings, we were not created to perform. We were created to be. Be in the moment. Be present. Yeah? Be who you are supposed to be. But ultimately, in everything, I tell people, what are you seeing in your life? Because we seek what we're seeing. Whatever you're seeking, exactly what you're getting in your life. So it starts with what you believe about yourself. When I had to change, when I began on my own healing journey, I'll say this, just like I'd mentioned earlier, I am the woman that I am today because of the women that I saw growing up. Powerful, courageous, strong women. But even with that, there are things that I had to change my belief about. I had to change the belief that I was not good enough. I had to change the belief that my voice doesn't matter. I had to change the belief that, I was born to be everything and everyone to everyone else, as women believe. I had to change the belief that in order to be loved, validated, or seen, I had to sacrifice myself. I had to do whatever it takes so for the people around me can love me. Now, that took a journey. In that, I turned into a people pleaser. People pleaser itself, it's another form of being and another form of humanity that I had to get away from. So I had to start rewiring myself. What is it that I know to be true about who I am? What is it that I know to be true? What do I believe? What am I convicted? Right? So then I took that and I started rewriting my story on my terms, how it looks like. Now, I'm going to tell you this. Once you start doing this, the people around you, they're going to be upset because they don't recognize the person that you're becoming. But that's okay. You have to keep moving and you have to continue. I always say excavating yourself, looking like what is going on here. You talked about shadow work here a little bit. You start from a little kid and then you're grown up. Most of us grown-ups don't know this. We can be achieving all these goals and having this success, But it's still that little boy and that little girl showing up in most of these spaces because we've not taken the time, like you mentioned, to do the shadow work. We've not taken the time to heal. I'm not saying everybody had a traumatic experience. Some of my clients, I talk to them, they're like, oh, I grew up pretty well. But when you start digging deeper, there is something, either somebody said something to you, somebody did something to you. In that moment, as a little kid, it changed how you view yourself. So ultimately, at the end of the day, it's you understanding. Learn your beliefs. What is it that you believe about yourself? When you start going in that space, you really start moving from being a doer to being a being. Because authenticity brings you home. Truth brings you home. So then now you no longer have to perform. Now you're standing in your truth, right? You're standing in your authenticity, no matter what it looks like.
Absolutely. And the first step of finding out which beliefs are either, let's say, serving us, and I would suppose no matter what the belief is, it is serving us in some way, shape, or form because it's either showing us who we are not, and we usually spend all of our energy and our life force trying to avoid certain things, experiences, the people that trigger us. But all of those are really just, they are openings, they are invitations to a newer level of ourself. So let's look at triggers in life and call them portals of transformation, invitations to the newest version of yourself where you're embodying your truth and your authenticity. How can people go about going through their different circumstances in life and they're showing up and they're reacting, they're unconsciously responding or unconsciously reacting, I would probably put that as. How do people get through those moments and really see the light at the end of the tunnel?
I say, in order to change, in order to get to the other side, you have to break through what you've been through. You have to break through what I've been through. And what I mean by that is, life, honestly, is truly how we respond to what is happening to us. Because most of it is happening for us. Some of the things that we sit and stress about never even happens, right? But we have to start going back again. It's discovering of self, knowing yourself. Everybody has different triggers. For me, I have not had the best relationships growing up as a young child. So I found myself in relationships that were very abusive, mentally, physically, and spiritually. So I'll give you a perfect example. I can't handle a man yelling at me. I can't. That triggers. So I've had to, first of all, become aware of that to see how I react. And with that, I had to look into it. What is this? What does this mean to me? Why do I get offended? Why do I get so triggered when I'm around somebody, or if a big man like yells at me, right? When when I went a little bit deeper, it took me back to my life experience of abuse. So then now I'm like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. So when I find myself in situations like that, because of the work that I've done with myself, I know how to respond. Either I'm walking out of the room, or if not walking out the room, I can stay grounded within myself to say, this doesn't have power over me anymore. So essentially, in order for you to respond to life, in order for you to respond to your triggers, you have to be aware of them. What do they do to you? Where do they come from? Because we all have triggers. I love that you said that they're portals. You know, it's kind of like the word failure. I'm like, who came up with that word failure? To me, life is full of lessons, a series of lessons. Tim, if you and I had to walk in an algebra class when we were maybe 5, 6 years old, and we're given an exam, right? And somebody's like, the professor's like, great, you're here. Here's your first exam. You best believe you and I are not going to do well because we have not learned it. We've not experienced it. And we're living in a world that's not allowing people to fully be human with their emotions. Anger is an emotion. Experience it. Resentment is an emotion. Experience it so you can know next time. When I'm in a certain situation, if this person does this or that person does this, oh, this triggers me. Now, how do I respond to that? It's ultimately how you respond to what is happening to you.
100%. Yeah, it brings up the contrast of duality in that most of
Of
us
dark
are
and light.
we're really spending, well, even dark and light, we categorize it as humans as good and bad, when in reality they're intricately connected. Without darkness there is no light, without light there's no darkness. So if I say I don't want any darkness in my life, that just means you haven't experienced or allowed those energies of the darkness to flow through you to say, let me just feel this. Let
Yeah,
me feel like what the trauma and what these limitations and what these stories that I keep telling myself, what are they trying
yeah,
to show me? So I think a lot of people, they spend their entire lives trying to avoid the things that make them feel bad. And this is an evolutionary mechanism, of course. And then they try to attach to the things that make them feel good. So, how can we get out of that loop where we're either attaching to the things that bring us more joy, more peace, in just coming into a state of being where these things effortlessly flow to us in the experiences that we're trying to resist? We say, you know what, I accept these to flow into my life if that is necessary, because maybe it's showing myself where I'm not free.
hmm hmm And somebody who coaches people and do workshops and stuff, the thing about transformation and evolution, you have to want it. I can't force you to want it. I can't, when you hear people say, I just got sick and tired of being sick and tired. No, that is real. You get sick and tired of performing. You get sick and tired of suppressing those emotions. You get sick and tired of not feeling enough. You get sick and tired of suppressing your own voice. You get sick and tired of not even utilizing your own voice. You get sick and tired of always looking at yourself and always thinking, I need to do this and I need to edit. It all essentially comes to that. There's no one in this world can change anybody. And I tell my clients that too. I am here to guide you. This is your life. You have to make the decision. It always happens that's why self-awareness, is so crucial when it comes to evolution and transformation. The day that you say, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, or even the day that you say, I don't think I want to tolerate this anymore, or the day that you say, I'm not going to stop, I won't stop using my voice anymore. I think I'm going to start speaking. That within itself is that portal that opens you up, because now even the universe, even your heart, I'm a heart-centered person. The world always talks about the mind. I know the mind is a powerful thing. For me, my mind is a powerful thing. It protects me, and it keeps me in a comfortable space. But they say, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Yeah, it has to start from the inside. It has to start from the heart, deep down in your soul. You have to make a decision to say, I want, and not change because you're broken, not change because you're good enough, but I want to make a change so I can discover more of who I am.
Absolutely. And who do you think we are? After your journey so far, you've probably come to some revelations about who you believe that we are. So who do you think we are?
That's a very powerful question. That is an extremely powerful question. And a lot of us have heard this before when people say, um, we're human beings having a spiritual experience. I believe that to my core. But I also believe that we have done ourselves a disservice. In the sense, I don't think we will get to the height of what a human being can be or take, because we're taking all these things externally to create the very person that we're seeking who's inside of us.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a different thought experiment
Yeah.
that we're looking at everything in the external reality,
Mm.
giving some level of self-worth, and you know we're taking all these things from the outside and saying this is what's going to make me whole, but it's the opposite.
Can you
It's
imagine if a fish waited for you and I in order for it to swim? It'll be dead. Can you imagine if a bird
yeah.
is like, there's not enough wind, I can't fly? So there's so all these things that the higher power, whoever
Hmm.
you subscribe to, has shown us and shows us every day.
Oh yeah.
This, you know what I mean? Like look who you are. So if animals can do that, imagine the power that we have as human beings. And that's why, if you notice, no matter what happens when human beings come together, it becomes so powerful because it's a natural state. So we have all these natural states that our hearts need. And the world is like, yeah, yeah, because your mind. The mind is great, but let me tell you one thing I've realized about human being. The longest journey a human being will ever take is from the mind to the heart.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's almost it's coming to a deeper understanding of creation and the interconnectedness of all that is. And when you sit within, I like to reference the mind as the lower mind and the higher mind.
Hmm.
And lower mind just driven by ego, fear, worries, conditions, etc. And then higher mind driven by spirit, driven by freedom and abundance and authenticity and who we truly are. And I would say there's definitely a relationship between, let's say, your chakras, like the brow chakra, with the mind, and the visions that we create within our mind. But the heart, it has the largest electromagnetic field in the body. And when there's brain heart coherence, there's almost just this crosstalk between both hemispheres of the brain, and it leads to, I would call, a limitless co-creator of our reality. And that is something I would call the embodiment of Christ consciousness. And that you could think of it even in terms of divine love. You're bringing the heart, and then divine light, wisdom. Light is just information that we are receiving and that we are encoding into our very experience. So allowing for higher downloads of, let's say, Christ consciousness or higher level wisdom to flow through us, and embodying that through our actions, like through the physical vessel. So it's this kind of combination of bringing the mind, body, and spirit into alignment. And it's such a beautiful journey, but a lot of people, they stay stuck in their head, and the mind does one thing really well, and it projects and it predicts.
Projects.
Projects and predicts.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
you want to speak a little bit about why our mind is guiding us always in the wrong direction, and how the heart knows the true answer, is there any thoughts on that?
Yeah, the mind. I wouldn't even say it's not guiding us correctly. If you really study the mind itself, it's there to protect us. If you really think about it, even the self-sabotage, you're not self-sabotaging because you really are self-sabotaging. You're self-sabotaging because you're afraid. There's certain things I've been wanting to do, or I used to want to do, but my mind will give me all those excuses why I'm not good enough. Isabel, this will happen, that will happen, that will happen. It's not because my mind is not telling me what to do. It is protecting. It's a tool. When I think about the heart, though, I feel that's where all the real decisions are made. And the reason why I tell you this is, if you find yourself in a situation where someone says something to you, asks you to make a decision, or somebody says something to you, it's normally how you feel is what determines if you've made the right decision. And the feeling never comes with the mind because the mind is not feeling anything. The mind doesn't feel anything. The mind is a tool. It's there to protect you. Yes, it has our beliefs. But when it comes to the heart, you feel it. Even when you say no, when you're supposed to say yes, you feel it. You feel it for the simple fact is your real decisions are made in the heart. The heart is how you feel. The heart is what really moves you. The heart, somebody may be brain dead, but as long as their heart is pumping their life, your heart cannot be done and your mind is still being egoic and doing all that stuff. It doesn't work that way. The moment your heart starts working, you're done, right? So that goes to show you the power of the heart, the consciousness of the heart, the truth of the heart. No, even when something happens, the first thing people be like, oh my God, because you're feeling it, because your heart feels it. That's humanity. That's the capacity of humans to be able to feel. I tell my clients, even anger, whoever told us it was a bad emotion, it's not a bad emotion. All the emotions that we feel are exactly what we need to feel, experience as human beings. You mentioned how people, if they're feeling a certain type of way or they don't want to feel in a certain type of way. The bottom line is this. A lot of us, if not all of us, have been conditioned to be who we're not, whether we would like it or not. We have been conditioned to believe certain things about ourselves that are not true. We have been conditioned to live by other people's opinions and expectations of who we are. So our minds are constantly running. They're constantly trying to make us be this way, look that way. Ultimately, how your heart feels is how you live.
Absolutely.
How you feel is how you show up for yourself, for the people in your life, for your job. I'll give you an example. So, 20 years ago, if you go to an organization, if you and I walked into a space and somebody was speaking on the left side and somebody on the right, so I go into the right, you go to the left, so we both come out at the same time, and you're like, man, I was like, so Tim, how was your person? You're like, man, they were powerful. They were powerful. And then I come out and you ask me, and I'm like, man, this person inspired me. They inspired me to be a better person. Those are two different human beings. And now we live in a world where people are looking for inspiration because people are trying to tend to their heart. People want to get connected to the soul. You talked about the mind, body, and spirit. We don't sit still enough to connect to that. We're constantly performing. That connection does not happen in movement. That connection with your mind, your body, and your soul, it doesn't happen in movement. It happens in moments like when you were saying, Tim, if you're not allowed to feel a certain way. It happened in moments when I feel triggered and I don't want to sit there and feel that emotion come through me. That's when the connection happens. When I'm in so much pain, I don't even know what this thing that I'm feeling, what it's supposed to feel like. How am I supposed to respond to it? But I sit with myself and I say, whatever this is, it's here to teach me. Let me understand what it feels like and just be in it. That's where the connection comes. My father passed away 4.5 years ago. I went home to bury him. And when I came back, I took a break from social media and everything. It was my girlfriend's birthday, 50th birthday. And I told myself, just go. But deep down in my soul, I heard God say, loud and clear, do not go. It's too early. But my mind was like, no, it's my girl. I need to support her. It's her 50th birthday. But what I've learned through my journey as we're talking about emotions is how to identify my emotions. So Tim, I go to a birthday party. In the middle of the birthday party, I just feel this wave of sadness. It just hit me. Boom! I was like, oh, okay. I know exactly what this is. I went to the bathroom and I cried. I cried for about 5 minutes. I mean, shedding. Nobody has a clue. They're drinking, having a good time. I'm in the bathroom crying. And then after I cried, wiped myself, put myself together, I went out there and continued to be with other people. That is because I had allowed myself to cry like that days and days and days. That's because I allowed myself to understand that feeling that hit my heart. What is that? Oh, that's when I'm feeling sad, right? And instead of me taking it out on other people, I've taught myself to remove myself from the situation so I could take care of myself. That's what I'm calling humanity. That's what I'm calling really getting to know yourself and identifying with the things that make you tick, with the things that make you sad, with how you feel when somebody disrespects you, with how you feel when somebody crosses your boundaries. It's essentially how are you feeling on a daily basis determines how you show up in life. And that comes from the heart.
100%. And it brings up an important point because emotions, I would just call them energy in motion. And oftentimes we don't allow those energy and motion to flow through us.
Well, we can't,
So
remember, because the world is going to call you weak. Remember?
exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, even men, we are told not to feel.
That's
Like, I mean, it's just like
crazy.
it's seen as okay if you cry, you're not strong. And these things that are just conditioned in us, and like feeling is now my strongest inner
Boom.
sense. If I jump in on a conversation, I can feel the energy of the other person. I can feel if a certain experience, like let's say if I'm going to book a trip, I can feel if that trip is going to be good or bad. And with all the crazy things that are going on in the world, with all the travel bans, sometimes
Yeah.
it's a good feeling because your mind might say, "Oh, you're going to Hawaii. You're going to have a great time," but maybe the flight is canceled. You're stranded. You can't make it. I think your heart, because we are connected to all that is. I think it's a combination of the mind, body, and spirit. Mind, you could call it the brow chakra. That's tapping into the infinite field of possibilities, and your heart can tap into that infinite field where every choice that you make is going to lead to a particular timeline. And I believe that the feeling is actually through the heart and through the kind of mind, body, spirit complex, I would call it. We are picking up on this infinite field, and through the feelings, it is an expansiveness or a contraction. And it could be somebody could hear voices. Hey, God's like, don't go on this trip,
Yeah.
or
Yeah. We call it the gut feeling, right? So we've been conditioned to ignore that. Oh, it's just a gut feeling. No, that's not your gut feeling. That's your truth.
exactly.
That is for me. I say that's that loud whisper for me, but that's where God. Now I'm understanding. That's where God speaks the loudest. Oh, to me. But we call it, oh, it's gut feeling, and we ignore it. And if you to ask your audience, 99.9% of the time they'll tell you every time I ignored my gut feeling, I was wrong, or I
Yeah.
betrayed myself. Hmm.
It's so reassuring to tell somebody that, because really tapping into your truth is really just the energetic expression. It's the feeling that's coming up, it's rising up. I would call that like your spirit flowing through you. And really we are physical vessels that are allowing, let's say, higher level energetics or perhaps lower frequency energetics to flow through us on a regular basis. And neither is right or wrong, like the high frequency or the low frequency. It's just we've moved through the lower frequency stuff.
Yeah,
And, we don't have to get bogged down in that. I
yeah.
know there's certain aspects of the spiritual community, they will focus on like putting out as much information. Hey, why are you guys avoiding information on these topics? And I think our goal is really to help people kind of transform and focus on what they wish to bring. But then there's the opposite side of that where it's the manifestation community, where it's
Yeah,
like I'm gonna manifest not having traffic. But what if the traffic shows you that you're impatient?
that's it.
And
And
then
and you hit the nail right on the head. Yeah. So we everything that we talk about, that we manifest, it's all outside of us. You hit
yeah,
it right on the head. The reason why you're frustrated by traffic is because you're not being patient. You know you can't control the traffic. You know there's nothing you can do about it, but you're going to complain and say, well, I manifest. No, you're not manifesting. What you need to manifest is the connection within yourself. I always say, as human beings, we need to get to a space where no matter how the wind blows, you're grounded within yourself. That doesn't mean you're not going to hurt. That does not mean you're not going to be disappointed. That doesn't mean you will not get triggered. That doesn't mean you're not going to hurt people's feelings. That your humanity aspect does not go away. The goal is to operate from a space of authenticity, from a space of knowing, from a space of knowing and a space of authenticity. And now the world is so saturated, not even just with coaches and with everybody telling people how to live. And I'm like, what's going crazy about this? You're telling people to do more. What we need to be telling people is to do less. Stop telling people to continue trying to get out here and discover this and this. I posted on LinkedIn just a week and a half ago, and I thought they would kill me because LinkedIn is a professional,
yeah,
a professional space. But I said it. I said, for the world has given us this idea in order for you to be validated, in order to be seen, you have to get all these accolades and all this education. But if we truly want to be honest, some of us, the education has robbed us of our gift.
it has. Yeah, I mean it's all really just a system. Even
It's a system.
the marketing techniques that you see from, I believe a lot of people out there are really just focused on actions. They are focused on, okay, if you need to lose weight or if you want to be in the anti-aging community, here's the things that you need to do. But now
Yeah.
you're stuck in a linear process of, I need to do this, I need to do that. You're not in embodiment, which means you'll never achieve the thing that you're trying to seek when you're in this process of, I don't have it and I need to achieve this. I need to buy the right products so I feel like my skin's looking amazing when it's within you. You just tap into it and you say, all of those things that I'm telling myself, they're illusions. They're not my truth. And reality will reflect that to you by basically saying, okay, if you want to be in this anti-aging, and this is just an example, if you want to reverse your age so badly, you're going to be presented with circumstances where you don't feel good about your age. And you feel worse about your skin, and you're going to increase the need for products
Yes.
until you give up completely, until you're just like, you know what?
Or you spend your life chasing, and that's the exhaustion of humanity. We
Oh,
are chasing. That doesn't mean, the higher power, God says, I'll give you the desires of your heart. And I think we confuse that. That doesn't mean you don't get what you want. That doesn't mean you don't go out there and achieve what you want. But it's how you do it, right? It is how you do it, how you go out here and achieve these things. A perfect example of how you spoke about men. Like, who in the world can tell another human being don't cry because it's weak? Crying is a part of cleansing your soul. Crying is a part of release. But for years, men have been told, you cannot cry, you're weak, you're a man, and do all that. Like, what? Think
yeah.
about that. So from the time you're young boy, you're conditioned to think that. It goes for women. From the time we were little girls, we have been conditioned, our job is to serve. Yeah, give, give, give. So our validation is through serving. So we sacrifice ourselves, we betray ourselves in the name of being loved and being seen, because we're being conditioned. It goes on both with men and women. This is what we need to start eradicating. We need to truly get in within and start talking about these things. That's why a lot of people cannot do what you do or what I do. When I first started doing this, 15 years ago, and I used to talk about all this spiritual stuff, even my own friends would say, nobody's listening to you. You want this woo-woo stuff. Nobody's paying attention to this. You know, organizations, oh, they don't want to hear this. Women, they're high achievers. They don't have time for this. Okay. Guess what's happening now? 70 to 80% of women experience autoimmune diseases because of suppression of self, want, and needs. Yeah? Our bodies, now everybody's talking about the nervous system. Okay, let's just make it basic. It's our bodies. Our bodies have been talking to us forever, and the reason why we go back to the heart again, the reason why people get sick and you're wondering, cancer, this and this, it's suppression of self. We keep suppressing who we are. If you just picture it, anything that comes your way, you're just suppressing, you're pushing it down. Eventually your body's like, hey, hold up. Enough, I can't take this no more. So now we're all this thing about the nervous system. It's just our bodies telling us, listen, enough is enough. I can no longer carry that. I can no longer hold that for you. You're going to have to express it somehow in order for you to keep living.
I think a good analogy is kind of like this stress bucket that is just overflowing, and it's our own body, and all of these energies have to manifest in some way, shape, or form. They have to express themselves. So they show up as autoimmune disease, they show up as cancer, they show up as anger issues, they show up as you're attracting the abusive relationships, for example. And what people will often try to do is, they'll focus on those stories, but those stories are illusions in and of themselves, meaning that it's a story that you're repeating, and your focus and attention is your power of creation. And the more that you give it to those stories, the more you animate them in your life. And what we're telling really the audience is that by just allowing those experiences and the circumstances and the energies to flow through us, what is this trying to show me? What is the lesson that I could receive from this cancer diagnosis? Let me feel into this energy. What's the origin of this? What's the source of this? But we're in a world that's oversaturated with noise, with distractions. So it's easier to watch Netflix than to deal with our own problems.
Oh
Because
my God, yeah,
that's the tough part. Like, it's looking at yourself and saying, maybe this isn't who I am. And I think coming back to that, the only place that you can really find out who you are, it's in the silence.
It's in the silence. But there's too much noise. There's, like, as you mentioned, too much noise. There's too much going on everywhere. And when you find people who, now that we've all become these producers, that's what we're doing. Every morning we're waking up, we're producing. Now we've become all these producers. As a coach, as a person who's trying to bring the stillness in humanity, to understand what it is to be a human being instead of being a human doer, it gets challenging because stillness requires you to do nothing. And the world we live in, doing nothing no, they don't accept that. What do you mean you're doing nothing?
Yeah.
It's not acceptable. What is going on with you? So if you take 2 days off and do absolutely nothing and be with yourself, what is that? What's going to happen to your business, Isabel? Tim, what is going to happen with this production? What most people do not realize, the 2 days that I sit down and do nothing and be with myself will be the most powerful 2 days, probably for 365 days.
Absolutely. And it allows, I would say, your reality to realign itself for that newest version of yourself and all the revelations that are coming through. And for people that have to post on social media and they have to create this presence, how can they find balance between the noise of a very very busy social media environment, very chaotic. You get on there, you're like, I don't know what I'm looking at
I don't know what I'm looking
nowadays,
at. Yeah, you get
but
on
I'm
there,
gonna
you're
get
like,
off really quick.
you get
But
on there, you're like,
so,
oh, this person has been coaching for 3 years. Look at how they have their stuff. Oh my God, I'm behind. I don't know if I am the right person to answer that question. For the simple fact is, number one, I'm an empath, and number two
okay.
is, with that being said, even with the work that I do, I get exhausted. There is no
Yeah.
way. I tell people. I was telling my husband the other day, I'm like, if me having a camera with me 24/7 is the way for me to be successful, I'm here to tell you today, I'm not going to be successful. I said it
Yeah.
because it's not real. Let's be real, people.
Yeah.
It is not real. The moment I pick up this phone and I start recording, I've already changed my state into performance.
Hmm.
I've completely changed my state into performance, you know, and I've tried to figure it out myself. How do I get on here without being distracted? But it's just, we're inundated with information, and our brains will just, it takes it, it downloads it, and then when it gets in my head, it's like, why aren't you doing this, Isabel? Why aren't you doing that? Oh, you're not good enough. Again, I go back to the space. If we don't take the time to know who we are, to understand who we were created to be, we will continue chasing other people's versions of who we think we should be. We will continue looking at other people thinking that this is who we should be. And if you look at most people who have been successful and been performing, they crash. They always crash at the end because it's not sustainable. The heart can't even take it. Your heart cannot take it to the point where you're constantly doing things that are outside of yourself. If anybody is listening to this, what I can say for them to take away, it's the simplest thing. It's not the biggest thing, but people don't want to hear it because it's not this big word. It's not this fancy thing. Know thyself. You want to free yourself? Know thyself. And what I mean by that, know what ticks you. Know what sets you off. Know what triggers you. Know what your different emotions mean to you. Know how to respond to your life. You don't want to be on offense, right? You don't want to be on defense, constantly defending yourself. Know thyself. The world has given us so much information, inundated us with, read these books, read this, and it's so great. Let's read all the books that we can. Let's get all the education that we can. But when it's all said and done, there's nothing more powerful and nothing more strong than what's inside of you. What is inside of you. Get to know that. Get to believe that. Create what your beliefs are. Rewrite your story. We all have a story. Everybody has a story. But most of our stories, I say, for me, for the longest, I felt like an actor in my own life. As though someone gave me a script and I was just acting it out. And what made it hurt the most was I was not even the main actress. I was the supporting actress. I was living outside of my life. And it's miserable as heck. Because each day I'd have to go on social media, look what somebody's doing, or see somebody else. Well, maybe I could do that. Maybe I could be that. I was constantly editing myself, constantly wanting to be someone else. It got so exhausting. It got so exhausting for me, and to the point where I said, you know what? I want to be like the fish. I want to be like the eagle. I want to be like the birds. I want to know enough of me to know that everything that I need is within me. The safety I'm looking for on the outside is within me. The enoughness that I'm looking for on the outside is within me. You mentioned earlier about shadow work. That's why it's important. I've been coaching for years and I still do shadow work. I still talk to the little girl inside of me. Guess what? This is a journey. It's going to take time to unlearn all these things. I still have to convince her we're safe, we're okay. This is the work that I still do till today. And it's work. And that's why a lot of people don't want to do it. Because you can't just check boxes, Tim, and get a trophy. You can't just put this AI thing together and get a trophy. No, it means you looking in yourself in the mirror, and me having conversations with myself sometimes say, girl, you have to change the way you're showing up. It really wasn't them, it's you.
100%. Yeah, I think for me, just having conversations with people, it was easier to get on camera because it felt more authentic. And whenever I tried to create a video of just the camera facing me and I'm talking,
Yeah,
it just feels too performative. And
yeah,
It just, I mean, you just have to find out what works for you. And again, that's coming back to your heart. That's coming back to, is the story that I'm telling right now, is it empowering or is it
Yeah,
disempowering? And
yeah,
then another thing to take into account of it's metacognition. It's that voice, it's thinking about our own thoughts. And who is that voice? Am I just the observer of this voice? And then you find maybe I'm just the observer of my experience. And then it goes deeper than that. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm connected to all that is. If I'm connected to all that is a version of myself that is confident, that is free, that's authentic and abundant and loving and compassionate and coming together as a community, that's available to each and every one of us.
yeah.
And it's simply a matter of choosing that in your here and now and not seeing separation. So I think just having these conversations is going to really dramatically change the landscape. I know we're adding more information already to
But it's good information, though.
it's grounded information. It's
Yeah.
authentic. It's something that would actually help somebody. We're not really trying to sell anything here. We're just speaking our truth, and I think we need more of that. And I think that's what attracts people to these podcasts,
Yeah.
to experiences like this. So, I really appreciate having you on the
Thank
podcast
you for having
today.
me.
It was such a beautiful journey going through just the wide spectrum of things from moving from the mind to the heart and
Yeah.
moving from that state of the world that we're always in this state of doing and moving into this expansive state of being. And it's just such a beautiful journey. And I really, appreciate having you
Thank
on.
you.
Do you have any closing words for the audience? Anything that you would like to say?
I do. Thank you so much, first of all, Tim, for having me. It's always a pleasure. I say myself that number one, I'm so grateful to God. When you start living in your being, the people that your tribe starts to show up. So I get to have conversations like this. People like you, because some people call me woo woo. Some people really think I'm crazy. So I have people like you showing up, and I'm able to expand on this conversation and to go a little bit deeper. What I would leave today for anybody watching this is this: you are enough just as you are. You are, I'll say it again, you are enough just as you are. You were born for a reason. Your life has a purpose. You may not know what the purpose is today. You might not even know what the purpose is tomorrow. But I want you to understand this. You have a purpose. You are needed in this world, and it's important that you start discovering yourself. And also, I will say this: tend to your heart. Tend to your heart, because it will never steer you wrong. And tending to your heart means you being still with yourself. Start with 5 minutes a day. A lot of people get afraid when you tell them to be still, they lose their mind. Be with yourself for 5 minutes. No phone, no nothing. Just sit still. You'll be surprised what you discover. You will be surprised. So tend to your heart. It will never steer you wrong.
Well, those are some very powerful words from a powerful woman, and
Thank you.
each and every one of you are capable of the same. Embodying that highest level of yourself, that truth, that authenticity, the freedom, just to show up as who you are and love who you are. So, thank you again,
You're
And
welcome.
where can people find you? You have your website and social
I
media,
do
right?
have my website. People can find me at isabeldrawn.com. I am on all platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and I also have a podcast which I'll be inviting Tim on. It's called Your Healing Space. And this is a podcast like Tim. I talk about all things humanity, our emotions, our feelings, all the things that people say taboo or afraid to speak about, we unpack on there. So those are the places that you can find me.
Absolutely. And I appreciate the invite. I appreciate you coming on today. I think people are going to get so much out of this conversation
Thank
and much
you.
more to come. So
Thank
thank you
you.
very much.
Take care.
Absolutely.